Hi, and welcome. I am Jen. I'm a culinary coach, a health educator, and someone who has lived through autoimmune disease firsthand, actually several, and reversed them. So today we're going to talk about something that most doctors gloss over, and that is antibodies. If you've ever been told your thyroid labs look fine, but you still feel off, and you're told that autoimmune diseases cannot be cured, they just have to be monitored, and we just have to change your meds, I want you to really listen today. Antibodies are very important, and it's not just about the labs. It's about slowing disease progression. It's about preventing new diagnoses and actually feeling like you again. I know I've had your labs look fine, and I felt horrible. If this is familiar to you, if you've had this happen to you, then please comment and share your experience because I love to hear from my listeners. So let's break it down. So our antibodies are proteins your immune system makes to protect you. Um, that protection should be from things like viruses, bacteria, and toxins. Just think about, what is in our environment that we do need to be protected from. But in autoimmune disease, your immune system gets a little confused and it has some misfiring and it starts to attack you. And then it tags part of your cells as the enemy. Your immune system starts producing antibodies against your thyroid. That can be TPO antibodies or thyroglobulin. You may see those on your labs. Hopefully, your doctor's checking those. It could be your skin. You could have psoriasis. You could have vitiligo. It could be your joints and rheumatoid arthritis. It could be your gut lining, which is celiac or Crohn's disease. There's many, many, many others. I want to say there's like 88 autoimmune diseases. So these antibodies are a signal. Your immune system is overreacting. Please ask your doctor to run your antibodies so you can see what that number is. And you don't have to use a doctor to get labs done anymore. And so if you can't get it done through your doctor says your insurance won't cover it, it's not that expensive to have your antibodies checked. So if you have high antibodies and normal function, if you've been doing this for years, there's other things that are going on in your body, not only inflammation, but you're increasing your risk for other things. So these are like your fire alarm. The smoke detector is going off if your antibodies are high. We have got to listen and figure out what's going on, what's causing this, why was this created anyway? Our symptoms can get worse if it keeps going on, more fatigue, more pain, more anxiety, more sleep issues. Most people with an autoimmune disease end up with multiple autoimmune diseases. I know I ended up with several and not all at the same time. And so I had Graves' disease. After I fought that for 7 years, my doctor told me I was going to die. And if I didn't have radioactive iodine at the time, I was really scared. And so I did. I regret it ever since. I'm not telling you not to do it if that's what your doctor says. But now, if I knew then what I know now, I wouldn't have done it because my next doctor, I'm very, very confident that I could have reversed things without having the radiation. After radiation, I ended up with Hashimoto's. I got that under control, but then I had a series of very stressful events. I ended up with psoriasis. I've had Sjogren's. I've had Raynaud's, celiac. I had no idea that celiac was even a part of my panel there. Anyway, luckily, I've been able to reverse all those, and in most cases, you can too. So if we let those antibodies keep going on, then new autoimmune diseases can develop. Like I said, how did I end up with so many? Your tissues are constantly under attack, constantly inflamed, and so they're not able to do the things they're supposed to be doing. And then your body stays in that chronic state of inflammation, which just increases your risk for many other things. Your immune system's fighting over here when it needs to be protecting you from other things. And the longer that they stay high, the more tissue damage it becomes. And tissue damage leads to cancer. And we definitely don't want cancer to start growing, all because we didn't know that we could help our antibodies. And if you're taking those meds, they may be helping with certain things, but they don't necessarily lower your antibodies. Now, I'm not telling you not to follow your doctor's advice on the meds. Do the meds, but do your homework and see what else you can do. And so when we start working on reversing autoantibodies, we can slow that damage, we can calm the immune system, and we can stay in remission longer. So also let me know, have you been in remission before? How long were you able to stay in remission? and things like that. So that's why they say it's not a cure. Because even though I've been in remission, I've gone right back out of remission when I didn't do the things that I knew I needed to be doing. For me, I thrive on stress and overworking. I don't know why, but when I get into those things, that's when I start having a flare. That's when my antibodies start going up, and that's when I come out of remission. And so for me, it's the food. I'm always about the food, but it's also a balance of exercise, not over exercising, and also taking care of my body to help calm things down. So when I was diagnosed with Graves' disease, my antibodies were sky high. And like I said, my doctor said I didn't need to worry about the antibodies. My doctor said that I needed to have the radioactive iodine because, well, at the time I weighed 90 pounds and I was drinking every milkshake I could get. I was just running from fast food place to fast food place trying to get milkshakes and coffee drinks and all these things, whatever I could get that had lots of calories and fat, just trying to put weight on. And I couldn't put the weight on, and I just kept losing weight. And she told me that I was going to die. But she told me, and I didn't really understand it at the time, even when they do the radioactive iodine, is not a cure. It just switches you from one thyroid disease to another thyroid disease. And she said this other thyroid disease is much more manageable. Well, except for that one time, I actually felt a lot better when I had Graves than when I had Hashimoto's. And swapping one disease for another disease, really? We need to find out what was causing it in the beginning and slow things down. So let me check my notes because I got totally off track here. So when I started working on my gut health, once again, I didn't even know I had celiac. I went gluten-free for a month. My antibodies didn't change. So I was like, oh, I can eat gluten. And then I found another doctor who said, no, you have to do this for 6 months. When I did it for 6 months, not only did my antibodies drop, when I started eating gluten again, my antibodies went back up. And that was a clear sign. Hello, I can't have gluten. That's definitely affecting my autoantibodies, and it affected my joints and pain and heavy legs as well. And so I didn't know it doing it just a month. It has to be done for even longer, which I know we don't like giving up our breads and things like that, but there's so many reasons why. Number one, blood sugar. Listen to the video I did before this where I talked about sugar and autoimmune disease. So here's what I tell clients to do is first, we need to work on the gut. If you have autoimmune disease, there's a very high chance that you have intestinal permeability or leaky gut, and 70–80% of our immune system lives in the gut. So leaky gut leads to elevated antibodies. And so using things like high fiber rich foods, prebiotic fibers, hopefully you're familiar with that, fermented vegetables, and broths that help to rebuild the lining. Lots and lots of minerals. We remove the things that damage the lining and add in the nutrients that we need. We stabilize blood sugar so that we can control inflammation and help the immune system get back on track. Listen to my video before where I talked about sugar. We lower the toxin burden. In my culinary healing membership group, we are currently talking about, we're reading the book, The Toxin Solution by Dr. Joseph Pizzerno in our book club, because it's so important to get the toxins out of your kitchen, out of your food, out of your body products. And so what do we need to be looking for and how do we remove those? But removing those toxins also helps with lowering our antibodies. We learn to support our liver and our lymph system. Even though we have a liver that's supposed to detox for us every day, when we were first put on this earth as humankind, we didn't have all these man-made chemicals. I can't remember how many we are exposed to. I want to say 1,000 chemicals a day. Even one apple can have something like 23 different pesticides on it. That's one apple. If you're brushing your teeth with chemicals and washing your hair with chemicals and putting lotion on and using deodorant with chemicals, how are you starting your day? And then you're eating foods that also have chemicals on them as well. I don't even eat 100% organic. I eat as organic as I can, but I'm being exposed to some of those chemicals. And then what about the water? And what about the air I'm breathing, right? It could just go on and on and on. And so something like this, like my book club and like my membership group, we learn how to gain control of the environment so that we can live peacefully and know that we're doing one of the best things for our body. We also talk about what foods, the book tells us what foods help. And so if you can't join my membership group, but you can go to the library and get this book, then that's a great way to start learning what your liver needs to help clean these toxins out. We need to manage the stress response, working on meditation, breath work, adaptogens. I use Qigong. That is my form of meditation every day. And then identify any hidden triggers. Do you have food sensitivities, mold issues, underlying viruses, gut infections? Are you eating gluten and dairy? Dairy is another one that is very common to be a factor in autoimmune disease. But figuring out doing a food elimination diet or some sort of plan like that, we're going to be talking about that in our next book club. When we finish this book, the next book is going to be all about food sensitivities and how to test foods to repair our gut. So one of my clients came to me with TPO antibodies over 800. She was exhausted, she was bloated, and she was always anxious when I had Graves' disease. I thought it was my personality to be that anxious. But we didn't talk about restriction. We talked about rebuilding. So it's not just let's cut everything out. Let's start adding things in. Eating the rainbow. That's my number 2 rule. Eat the rainbow. Every meal needs to have lots of color. Not only does it make it look appetizing, it provides all these different nutrients and phytochemicals our body needs. Bumping up the leafy greens. If you can get greens in 3 times a day, that is fabulous. Removing the gluten and the dairy. So we are restricting that. Using castor oil packs. Castor oil packs are fabulous. We work on adding in fiber and healthy fats and then gentle movement. We can't be cross training right now. We have elevated antibodies. We need to do movement that is appropriate for us to move the lymph, to maintain muscle and bone, but not to overdo it. And we're working on these things with this client. In just 3 months, her antibodies dropped by half. Her skin cleared up, her energy came back, and her anxiety was gone. And so it's definitely possible for you. It was possible for me. If you're dealing with elevated antibodies, if your doctor has never tested them, see if you can get your doctor to test them or get them tested on your own, or reach out to someone like me who can help you get those tested so that you have something that you can track to see how well you are doing. You don't have to wait to get worse, right? So a lot of times people don't even have a diagnosis. They feel like they have it. We have those gut instincts for a reason, but the doctor keeps saying you're quote unquote normal. You can get that checked. Get it checked out yourself and see. Doctors only test TSH. TSH doesn't actually test the thyroid if it's an autoimmune thyroid disease. TSH could be fine. It could be your other thyroid hormones that the doctors don't test that could be off. Anyway, if you want more guidance, you can look into my culinary healing circle at culinaryhealingcircle.com. Every month we have our book club. We have at least 2, sometimes 3 food demos. We have weekly Qigong. We have a functional fitness class. I do a master class. I do a live Q&A once a month as well. I'd love for you to join me. We talk about foods that are for helping with inflammation, anti-inflammatory foods. The food demos are all about low glycemic, nutrient dense foods that you will love, your family will love. They're nice, quick, and easy. And there's a whole digital library that you can get loads and loads of recipes, videos, and things like that. And I even have a WhatsApp group where you can ask questions 24/7 and get support. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video or you are questioning something I said, please comment. I love to hear from you. Hit subscribe, hit like, share it with someone that you know is struggling with autoimmune disease or didn't know that they can reverse their autoantibodies. Now, is it possible for everyone? I can't guarantee. It depends on how long you've been fighting it and how long you've had this inflammation, but it's definitely worth a shot. And even if you can't completely reverse it, feeling better, hello, that's worth everything. So thank you for listening today, and I hope to join you again next week.